Okay, so the first thing to do is take out the individual pages. And this particular drawing pad has perforations. If it doesn't, then you can just rip the paper off through the little spiral wire binding. Okay, so once you have the paper taken out of the drawing pad, then try to line up one of these lines on your quilting ruler with the edge of the cardboard. And you want to cut as closely as you can to this wire binding, still giving yourself some room to cut. So notice that I'm pressing my hand down on this ruler, and that helps keep it from slipping. And then I'm going to push down. This is the hardest cutting part. Once you have the cardboard cut, everything else is pretty easy to cut. Okay, so that was the first cut, get it off of the wire binding. Now we're going to have 4 covers, 2 front covers and 2 back covers. And they are each going to be 9 inches by 12 inches, because that is 18 by 24 divided by 4. So I'm going to cut this side first, and I'm just going to line it up on this quilting rotary cutting mat. And so the width is actually going to be the height of our covers. So they are going to each be 12 inches. So I'm going to line this up. Try to square it up as much as you can. And then go over to the number 12 on the mat. And you can line your ruler up with this line that continues underneath the cardboard, and that will give you a good straight line. And then this is 18 inches across, so each of our covers will be 9 inches. So lining it up with this edge, I'll move it up over to the 9. Okay, and then do that same thing with your other cardboard. This will be our end paper, but I actually already have one that I painted with some kind of muted burnt sienna, and I'm going to trim this serrated part off. And then I'm going to cut 2, not quite 9 by 12 pages, because I want a little bit, I want the end papers to be a little bit smaller than the cover. So I'm going to turn this over, and if I have a half-inch, if I have it a half-inch smaller all the way around, it'll be 8 inches by 11. And so this direction, I want it to be 11 inches. This direction will have 2 8-inch. And always keep your scrap paper, because you can use it for collage or other things. So these will be our end papers. Now you can cut a couple pieces of paper at once. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages here. You want to be sure that they're all squared up. This is the width of the paper, So we have 24 inches here. We're going to divide it by half, so we're going to cut at the 12-inch mark. Because we're making signatures, and those are pages that are folded in half. Okay, so you want to double check that you have your paper really square. And by square I mean that it is lined up along this edge and lined up here, because if you have it a little bit crooked and you cut this, then your entire signature, in fact both of these signatures, will be a little bit cattywampus, and you don't really want that. Now each signature can have, you know, anywhere between 6 and 8 total pages. If you start out with 4, then when you fold it over, you will have 8. You can go more than that, but I personally like to stay with about 8 at the most. It helps keep the book kind of lying flat. But you can experiment. Different paper allows different numbers of pages. Just kind of fold it over and see if it folds well and kind of lies flat. Like this has a few too many pages. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's remove one of them. So this is a signature of a total of 10 pages, because we started out with 5 here. So that would work all right as well. So up to 10 pages for this particular paper. I also want to bring up the use of old drawings and unfinished sketches that you might have lying around. If you've been an artist for quite a while, you probably have quite a few of you know, different studies that you've done, different experiments with different media. And if you're just, you know, keeping these in a pile somewhere and not really using them, sometimes it's kind of nice to incorporate those into a new sketchbook as well. It does cut them apart a little bit, and if you're using old paper, you just want to double check that it is in fact 24 inches, and this one isn't. So you could only use one of those. And if you have serrations, then you want to trim those off. And again, you need to square up your paper. And don't throw away these little pieces of paper either, because not only can you use them for collages, but you can also save all of your scraps of acid-free paper, and then you can make your own paper out of them, or recycling it. But there's kind of a new fad of adult coloring books, which are kind of fun for people. But by cutting up some of your old drawings that you just, you know, your sketches or your studies or whatever, and then putting those in a new sketchbook, you are creating your own coloring book where you can look at some of your past work and kind of expand on that and fill it in with color. And you can either have entire signatures made of this approach, or you can intersperse them through the rest of your sketchbook.